I appear before you today to discuss which Power Rangers villain has the highest body count. No, not like that. That would be too easy. It's this guy. You freaking puppet. I mean kills, which is interesting because they almost never say the word kill in the show because it's a kid's show and there are rules about what kind of language you can have on children's TV. There's a great, albeit a little bit outdated, Reddit post about it. Apparently Adam says kill in reference to people drag racing one time in Turbo, so you can understand long-term fans were shook when Rita Repulsa said the word kill in the 2023 Once and Always Netflix special, but that special was a lot more mature in a lot of ways. I'm talking about Power Rangers though, not civilians. First of all, because it is far more honorable to stain your blade with the blood of your enemy than it is to just kill some random people on the street. And also because the show often tries to pretend civilians didn't just die, because they're really hoping that you weren't paying attention because you're 10 years old. I will say, it's incredibly difficult to keep a Power Ranger dead. If they die in a flashback, that's fine, because they were already dead. And it's not the same thing. But I would be so frustrated if I was a villain in that universe, because if they're on the core team, and we see them every episode as an audience member, you can slash them. You can literally blow them up. You can erase them from existence as though they were never there, and they will be back before the end of the season. So most of the characters I'm about to cover are still alive, but they were dead at one point. If we're gonna have a conversation about Power Rangers who passed away, we have to go back to 1999. Lost Galaxy's Kendrix Morgan. She is the most iconic. Why? Because she was the first Ranger to ever die. In a crossover episode with Power Rangers in Space, Cassie and Kendrix find themselves pitted against the Pink Psycho Ranger, who has the Savage Sword, an incredibly powerful weapon we never heard of before and will never hear of again. During the battle, Kendrix sacrifices herself to destroy the Savage Sword and save Cassie's life. I find this event particularly fascinating because it is the biggest Mandela effect in the entire Power Rangers community. Many fans will tell you that Kendrix remains dead to this day, when in fact, she comes back in the very last episode when they put the Quasar Sabers back in the rock. And then she returns the next season for a crossover episode. Other than the fact that it was the first time we ever saw a Power Ranger die, Kendrix's death is uniquely traumatic because it just pops up in the middle of the season, whereas most Rangers die sacrificing themselves during their final battle. The reason for that is because of what was going on behind the scenes. The actress actually developed cancer and was going through chemotherapy at the time, so she could no longer do the show. But it's a success story because she fully recovered, and that's why she was able to come back for the crossover in the next season. So who are we going to credit this kill to? You could say that it was Psycho Pink, because technically she started it, but she didn't finish it. Kendrix sacrificed herself to save Cassie, while Psycho Pink was off gigantified and fighting the Megazord in the background. Kendrix was killed when she attacked the Savage Sword and the explosion destroyed her. So I would say no one really gets credit for this one. Not that it would help Psycho Pink in the end, because that's only one Ranger she's killed, and there are villains who've done much better than that. But Lost Galaxy is really interesting because even before Kendrix passed away, there was Mike and there was the Magna Defender, who have so many questions surrounding literally everything they do. And I don't think I'm gonna count either of these, but if you'll give me a moment to ramble off script, we're gonna tangentially just kind of unpack this a little bit. First of all, was Mike ever a Red Ranger? He pulled the Quasar Saber from the stone. He had Red Ranger energy, but he never got to morph. So are you a Ranger if you haven't morphed yet? Does Mike actually die? Like, he gets thrown into a crevasse. Oh, you think he's dead? Sure. But as we see later, the Magna Defender catches him before he hits the ground. He's on the verge of death, and then the Magna Defender combines their bodies, and then later, even though he has taken all of that matter and made one body out of it, he somehow manages to make another body. You've gotten rid of his body fabric. How do you take two spirits, one body, and make two bodies, two spirits? I do not know. Maybe I do not want to know. They did it behind a rock. Technically, maybe didn't die. Oh my god. Maybe I do need to know. Whatever. Moving on. The Magna Defender, he's not a Power Ranger when he first shows up. He's an armored ally from another planet. He's some alien seeking revenge. we never see him transform, so we have no reason to believe that his armor that we're seeing is anything other than his exoskeleton, which of course leads me to my favorite Lost Galaxy theory, that means that when Mike transforms into the Magna Defender later, he's wearing someone's exoskeleton, which is wonderful and gross and creepy, and I like it. Okay, I'm gonna stop rambling now. Moving on. In Power Rangers Time Force, that literal explosion I was talking about is Alex Drake, the Red Time Force Ranger from the year 3001 and Jen Scott's fiance. But the circumstances surrounding his death and reincarnation, mostly the reincarnation part, are also very confusing. Because when he comes back halfway through the season, they do not explain at all how that has happened. So, was he never really dead and then he received much needed medical attention? Or maybe that never even happened. He never died at all. Because this is a time travel season, and when the Rangers travel 1,000 years into the past, I wonder if something they've done echoed into the future, making it so their motivation for going back in the first place never happened. So I'm just gonna say the jury's out on whether or not Alex ever died or didn't die, but at least 5 main characters in the timeline remember that event happening, so I'm still gonna count it, and the person who killed him was Rancic. I'd also like to quickly touch on how cool Rancic is. He's one of the only Power Rangers villains to ever go completely undefeated. He surrenders at the end. Then he gets a dope redemption arc in the next season. Also, one of the first things that we see him do as a villain is just straight up demolish a Ranger. So you're legit stressed when the rest of the team start fighting him. You're like, dude, he chopped that guy with his bone sword so hard that he literally exploded. I don't want to mess with that guy. I don't want you to mess with that guy. Which brings us to Power Rangers SPD, in which I would like to give a brief honorable mention to the original Space Patrol Delta members who lived on Sirius with Doggy Kruger, because they all lose their lives defending their planet, though none of them were technically Power Rangers at the time because we don't see them in the spandex. But Officer Tate was a Ranger, and wearing pretty much exactly the same suit as Alex, which leads me to believe that he was blown up, even though we don't actually see it happening. He has I get blown up vibes. Officer Tate was the Blue Ranger Sky Tate's father, and we only ever see him in flashbacks because he's already dead when the show starts. And as I said previously, if it's only in flashbacks, it doesn't really count. He had a nasty run-in with I was gonna say mutant. That's because I'm still thinking about Time Force because of the suit. I don't know, an alien, a guy, a bad dude. He had a run-in with a bad dude named Mirlock, who does all kinds of weird mirror shit, and apparently he killed him, and I'd like to think he blew him up. Mirlock 1, SPD 0. Okay, maybe SPD 1, Mirlock 1. It's a tie. And then we hit the wall of nightmares. My beautiful, horrible darling, Mystic Force. I'd like to give another honorable mention to the Mystic Wizards, though we never see them morphed, so I think they're actually just wizards, not Power Rangers. And as for who that would even go to, it happens off screen during a huge battle, so easily a private could have just gotten lucky. And that brings up the really interesting question of, if you're in command of an army, do you get credit for everyone that they kill, or do you actually have to do that with your bare hands? But the Master does have 2 confirmed kills, Daggeron and Leanbow. And this is where we get into the nightmare of why I don't like to discuss Mystic Force. Because Daggeron and Leanbow are knights. They are explicitly stated to be knights. Their suits present very differently in the way they are designed from how the Power Rangers look, as well as they can access an entirely different third form that the Rangers don't have access to. So if we spiral in this sense, are the Mystic Force Power Rangers using magic to access the Morphin Grid? Or are they just using magic to give themselves armor? Are they just wizards and not even really Power Rangers? But if we push all of that anxiety out of the room and pretend it doesn't exist, we are going to say that the Master is currently at the top of our leaderboard with 2 confirmed kills. Power Rangers Operation Overdrive, Mack sacrifices himself during the final battle, and I'm still not entirely sure why. He just is like, I gotta exert all my energy, and then he's dead. And I don't know what that helped or why he did it, but it happened, and then he came back to life, and that kill goes to no one unless we were letting Max score, which we're not because he's not a villain, but he did definitely do that himself. and I don't know why. I think this is my last honorable mention, but Master Mao gets killed by Daishi, though I am not going to give that point to Daishi because Master Mao is a Pai Shui master, not a Power Ranger, though he does train Power Rangers. In Power Rangers RPM, brother-sister boom duo Gemma and Gemma get deleted from reality in what is my most heartbreaking Power Rangers moment. It's awful. And the credit for those kills goes to Venjix, who is now tied with the Master. Power Rangers Samurai brings us another daddy issues died in a flashback in the form of Mr. Shiba. And since this happened off camera, it brings up the same issue as Mystic Force. Was he killed by a random Nylok? Or does this kill go to Master Xandrid? And I'm just gonna go ahead and say Master Xandrid gets it, 1 point for him. Now this is an interesting one, because what defines a Power Ranger? Having a morpher, a connection to the grid, brightly colored armor. So, in that sense, Blaze and Roxy are Power Rangers. Now typically when a Power Ranger starts out evil, they undergo a redemption arc because they were under some sort of spell or they were confused or someone lied to them. But in Blaze and Roxy's case, they stay Evil Rangers the entire 2 seasons of Beast Morphers because they are evil alternate versions of the good characters. So technically speaking, because they kill them in season 1 and then they kill them in season 2, that would be 4 kills to the Beast Morphers team. But again, they cannot score because they are good guys and I am only putting villains on the leaderboard. So everyone else is really lucky that Beast Morphers was disqualified on a technicality because 4 is a lot. In the season 2 finale of Beast Morphers, Steel is killed by Evox, which is another one of my top most heartbreaking moments in Power Rangers. But he's almost immediately brought back to life and now he's a real boy. But that is still 1 kill to Evox. During the season 2 finale of Dino Fury, Zayto sacrifices himself by using the final attack of the Mega Fury Saber, which is credited to no villain, but I think it's interesting. Kendrix died blowing up a sword, Zayto died blowing up a sword. Swords are more of a threat to Power Rangers than villains. In the Once and Always Netflix special, Rita Repulsa finally put her money where her mouth is and actually killed a Power Ranger. As Robo Rita, she killed Trini Kwan. The reason that this one is particularly heartbreaking is because of what was going on behind the scenes. The actress Thuy Trang, who played Trini Kwan in the original 1993 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, actually passed away in a car accident in 2001. So the only way to continue having her in the show would be to recast. And as a show of respect for the actress, they decided to put the character to rest. I mean, the Once and Always Netflix special is basically a memorial to Thuy Trang. So the first time Zayto died, it was a sword. He comes back at the very end of the season and we discover the Morphin Masters brought him back with magic. Throughout the course of the 3rd season, Cosmic Fury, he slowly drains his energy from his body by using magic to help other people, and eventually dies saving his entire team in another act of self-sacrifice. This guy, he just wants to show off by dying all the time as a martyr, but he won't let a villain have the credit. I will say, other than daddies who died in flashbacks, Zayto and Trini are ones for the record book, because they are the only 2 Rangers to have been a part of the core team during the show, died, and not come back. And they're not gonna come back. So if we look at the leaderboard, you're probably thinking this is gonna be a tie between Venjix and the Master. But here's the thing. Venjix and Evox are the same person. He is a villain in 2 seasons of Power Rangers, which means if we take those and put them together, bing, he has killed 3 Power Rangers, all by himself, without henchmen or armies or monsters of the week. He's just that devastating of a villain. Robot power, the robot shall inherit the earth. He is the best villain. The coolest villain, the most impressive villain. I will not be taking any arguments, and secretly my favorite villain is Lothar, even though he doesn't kill anybody. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the result of what keeps me awake at night. My brain compulsively telling me to catalog something completely mundane and obscure, and then I just can't let it go. But now I can. I made this video, and now I am free. And that is in no small part thanks to you. Thanks for watching this so that I can be free. I'm gonna go sleep now. Sleep is good. A little bit crooked. I'm a little bit country. Now a little bit of rock and roll. Sorry, what? With Kendrix has a last name. Kendrix has a last name.